He's fine. He obviously, last year he had 3 races. He won the July meeting maiden, which is always a competitive maiden. He then went to Goodwood and got imbalanced on the track, and probably should have been second that day. He would never have touched the winner. And then he's gone and won the big sales race, so obviously he's running a maiden, a Group 2, and then the big sales race here at Newmarket. He's had a good winter. I'm pleased with him at this stage. He'd be a horse that may well run in a race like the Craven, though with the weather and the way everything has been, these horses are not as forward as normal. I don't like to push them if the weather and issues are going against us. We stand in a sort of blustery east wind, shield factor of about -8, and a bit of snow floating about. We'll see. I'm happy with him. We may possibly run there. Whether he goes to a Guineas or whether he'll be more of a 1.25 mile horse would be a key factor. Obviously discuss the matter with the owner, but he is out of an unraced Sadler's Wells mare. It's a family of Alvarado, so you know the stamina there. Having had an elusive quality like Raven's Pass, who had no trouble with a 1.25 miles, that may well be his best trip in the end. But I could see looking at either a race like a Dante could be a possibility as well. If you stayed on the mile route, then obviously St James Palace is later on. But I think he's one of those horses, a little bit more test of that stamina will play into his hands. He's a nice type of horse, yeah. I mean, of our 2-year-old colts, he was a standout. I will have to admit we had 1 or 2 that were where you would like to see them, and the rest of our 2-year-olds last year were somewhat below the standard required. But this happens, you get crops like that. She's doing very well. She's stronger than ever. She had a very good 2-year-old year and wound up champion 2-year-old in France, co-champion here in the whole of Europe. And she, again, was delayed by a lot of very soft, heavy ground in the spring. She finally got to race at the July meeting. Just by then she had to race soft ground. She handled it quite well and finished second, and then she went on to win the Rothschild. And she's had a good solid towards the end of the year. We'd look at to start her out maybe in the middle of May. The Lockinge would be a possibility. She obviously can look at 2 races at Ascot, a Queen Anne and then the Windsor Forest. So those sort of races, and she's a filly that we wish to at one stage step her up and trip, but she doesn't have to be restricted to a mile. She's out of a lemon drop kid mare, and I feel that a little extra distance would be within her scope. She's won a Group 1 at 2, Group 1 at 3, so you'd be very hopeful the same would occur at 4. But nothing, as we know, is written in stone, but she'll be competing in those top races. She's doing fine. She had a busy year, you know. She ran in the Guineas first time out and struck into there. And she had one of those years where she didn't get the rub of the green, unlike in the Oaks and Breeders' Cups, and got Thunderstorm beaten the neck in the Yorkshire Oaks, but she then went and ran a Nassau well, and she won her Musadora well. And she's a nice filly, big rangy, scopy filly. I'd be hopeful that she would logically improve from 3 to 4. I think her best distance is probably 1.25 miles, but she stays 1.5 miles. Certainly is a stronger filly this year, that's more possible, but there's a good programme for these fillies, but it tends to be very much July onwards, you know. She could run in the Middleton at York in the middle of May, but at the moment I'm not, she's still woolly in a coat and not enjoying this spring, so if she comes for York, fine. If she doesn't, then we'll be patient, and you could go straight to Royal Ascot with her. She's a Group 1 winner, and she was high-rated 3-year-old filly on time form last year, so she's the kind of filly you could go straight to a Prince of Wales with at Royal Ascot if she was in top form then. And there's no reason with a filly with a spring like this, it might take them that long to come to themselves. Certainly a lot of the mares in England are foaling late, so the hormonal levels are a little bit in a muddle.